Good morning, it's 7:30.
Welcome to CJS Breakfast. I'm Andy Stevenson.
And I'm Lucy Skinner. Coming up on today's show, this is Dave Rowntree from former Britpop band Blur.
When you leave what's basically a youth activity to a bunch of old men in grey suits, they completely miss the whole point.
Find out what's bothering him later in the programme.
Old-fashioned attitudes to science are challenged down at the Bay.
If you thought science was all about test tubes and baggy lab coats, then you'd be wrong. I'm here at Techniquest in Cardiff Bay to find out why this week science is getting everyone excited.
And we look ahead to Wales against England.
It just goes back hundreds of years, and there's that rivalry, and it's the minnows against the big boys, and the minnows always want to turn over the big ones.
And I'm Guy McCree, live at one of Cardiff's busiest petrol stations to find out the truth about the recent survey.
That's all coming up on CJS Breakfast. But first, here's Samira Isat with the news.
Good morning. Pakistani troops may be closing in on Osama bin Laden's second in command. Ayman al-Zawahiri is thought to have been cornered in mountains on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. There is fierce fighting in the area and local residents have been urged to leave the area. Sheikh Rashid Ahmad says his country is determined to see the operation to capture him succeed.
We have sacrificed a dozen people there fighting against terrorism, and we are committed against the terrorism, and we'll finish all these terrorists.
More than 760 jobs are to be created in South Wales by a computer services company. Logica CMG has confirmed it will be bringing over 1,000 jobs to Bridgend over the next 3 years. The Anglo-Dutch firm provides financial and IT management services. And British troops are on their way to Kosovo after getting an emergency call-up. 750 members of the Royal Gloucestershire, Berkshire and Wiltshire Regiment are to be deployed there over the next 4 days to help quell the ethnic violence. This follows an urgent request from NATO in the face of the worst ethnic fighting for 5 years between Albanians and Serbs. Former US envoy Richard Holbrooke says there appears to be only one solution.
In the end, Serbia and Kosovo will have to have a peaceful, friendly divorce. They will not be able to coexist under the same sovereignty.
Trustees at Middleton, the National Botanic Garden of Wales, are facing pressure to resign as part of a £900,000 deal they've accepted from the National Assembly to save the tourist site. It's unclear whether the resignation of the trustees was a condition of the deal. Here's more from our Carmarthenshire reporter.
A senior source in the Assembly government said the trustees should go, and Hugh John, a cabinet member of Carmarthenshire County Council, said he believed there'd be no council money without a change of management. But the trustees insist they're not resigning.
And a man who indecently assaulted a schoolgirl at a swimming bath in North Wales has been banned from every sports and leisure centre in the UK. This unusual order was made because Christopher John Padday told Mould Crown Court that he assaulted the girl on 4 occasions in a Wrexham swimming pool. The 46-year-old was also jailed for 12 months and told to register as a sex offender for 10 years. The Church in Wales has failed to appoint a new bishop for the first time in its history. The panel who chooses a new bishop met in Bangor for 3 days, but could not agree on a new choice of bishop following the retirement of Reverend Saunders Davies. The bench of bishops of the Church in Wales would take on the role while it consults with the Diocese of Bangor over a possible replacement. And schoolchildren from Cardiff are taking part in the world's largest poetry reading. Pupils from Lunnishton High School will be reciting Daffodils, the famous poem by Wordsworth, along with 150,000 children across Britain. The event has been organised to raise money for the Marie Curie Cancer Charity. And finally, drivers in Wales have the cleanest cars in Britain, according to a new survey. Welsh drivers visit the car wash more than 6 times a year. That's more than car owners in other parts of the UK. We wash our cars twice as much as the Scots, and some English don't wash their cars at all. More about this later in the breakfast show. That's the news from CJS. We'll be back at 8 o'clock.
Well, welcome back to CJS Breakfast. So, as you may have just heard, the top national story you're waking up to this morning is that Pakistani forces have surrounded a top Al-Qaeda figure.
We've been taking a look through some of the front pages this morning, and frankly, a couple of the papers can't hide their excitement. The Daily Express says, Bin Laden in our sights, and the Telegraph declares Al-Qaeda mastermind trapped.
The deepening Kosovo crisis also gets the front page treatment this morning. The UN are pulling out troops from northern town Mitrovica, but Britain is sending 750 extra soldiers to the Balkans. The The Times has Britain rushes in troops as Kosovo erupts, whilst The Independent carries a dramatic picture of UN vehicles on fire under the headline Burning Churches, Ruined Homes and Ethnic Hatred.
Meanwhile, The Sun exclaims, "Lock them up," a call from MPs for freed Camp X-Ray Brits to be put in prison here, whilst the Mirror covers the war on rip-off store cards. We'll have more on this story in CJS Breakfast later.
We're just getting back to South Wales. The top story is a bit of good news, thank goodness. Technology giant Logica CMG announced yesterday that it will be expanding its workforce in Bridgend. Our business correspondent Rebecca Bryce joins us in the studio now. Good morning, Becky.
Morning, Lucy. Well, yes, yesterday has been hailed as a red letter day for South Wales, as computer services giant Logica CMG confirmed that 760 jobs are to be created at their Bridgend plant. This will see the number of people employed in Bridgend now top the 100,000 mark.
So this can only be good news.
Well, it certainly is. The move is one of the biggest inward investments to Wales for many years. Andrew Davies, the Economic Development Minister, is optimistic that it's exactly the sort of expansion that will bring about the highly skilled, highly valued jobs that have been talked about by the Welsh Assembly. It's also a real boost for Bridgend, who for years have been reliant on its other big industrial leaders, Sony and Ford, who also have plants in the town. Yesterday's announcement is great news not only for the town's economy, but also for sustaining Wales's economy on a wider scale. Now, one of the big issues Wales has faced in recent years has been that a lot of professional skills have left Wales. But with the growth of Welsh universities, it's hoped that any notion of a Welsh brain drain will fade away as highly skilled graduates remain working here.
But why did Logica CMG choose Bridgend as their base?
Well, it seems the company settled in Bridgend for several factors, not least for the commitment and support of the Welsh workforce. Now, the company's chief executive, Jim McKenna, cited Bridgend's broad mix of skills as being a seminal reason.
So it's obviously good news for ministers. So how is Bridgend going to benefit?
Well, Bridgend's been going through something of an economic makeover in recent years. There's been a programme of massive housing building in the town, with commuters working in Cardiff moving to the area, seeking more house for their money, and this is only likely to grow. At a recent recruitment fair in Cardiff, Logica CMG was offering posts with salaries ranging from £10,000 all the way to £46,000.
So everyone's happy?
Well, you would think so, but there seems to be something of a divide. There are concerns around what some people are calling the planning vandals, who have destroyed what used to be a quaint market town by the expanding town's industrial plants. But others are more optimistic. For years, Bridgend has grown used to the ups and downs of the industrial roller coaster, with job cuts and downturn in profits. But for once, it's great for them to read a positive headline for a change.
Thank you very much for that, Rebecca. So we're just getting ready for a bit of weather from Kate Williams. So over to you, Kate.
Good morning. The Met Office have issued a warning to drivers to be careful this morning because of the severe gales and heavy rain affecting South Wales. The very windy weather looks set to continue for the rest of the day, but the rain is expected to clear later, leaving lighter showers. It doesn't look much better for the weekend either, so if you're travelling to Twickenham tomorrow, wrap up warm. The strong gales are here to stay. Top temperatures reaching around 12 degrees Celsius.
Doesn't sound too bad there. Thanks, Kate. Now, a survey just published says that Welsh people wash their cars more than people in any other area of Britain. We here in Wales apparently wash our cars 6 times a year. That's double the amount Scots get their sponge and bucket out, for example. CJS Breakfast went on the streets to see if this was true.
Once every 2 weeks, something like that. I think they've just got a pride in their cars as well.
I haven't washed my car for about 12 months.
I don't clean mine that often.
There's an exception to every rule, and I'm it.
Now our travel correspondent Guy McCree is at a car wash near the Gabalfa interchange. So do people in Wales really wash their cars more, Guy, or does the rain not do the job for them?
Well, it's difficult to say on the evidence this morning, Andy. As everyone knows, there's been a lot of heavy downpours this morning, and staff here at the Tesco car wash off the Gabalfa interchange are attributing that to the fact that no one has actually been in to the car wash since about 2 o'clock this morning. However, they say they're normally a lot more popular.
And how's the travel situation looking for us this morning, Guy?
Well, Andy, as I said, the heavy downpours this morning are causing really, really difficult driving conditions here. I mean, the rain is absolutely teeming down here. So drivers are basically being advised to take extra care on the road. On the road, the M48 eastbound towards the old Severn Bridge in Gwent The road there is closed due to high winds, and diversions are in operation. On the ferries, Irish ferries have cancelled all services from Dublin to Holyhead until next Wednesday. And as the trains go, Arriva and Central trains report that all services in the region are running on time, so they're not experiencing the same problems drivers are running. There are also no major delays on flights out of Cardiff Airport this morning.
Okay, thanks very much,
generally,
guys.
it's not looking too bad.
Okay, so thanks very much for that, Guy.
Thank you for that, Guy. Well, it's National Science Week this week, and everything from bionic monkeys to technology behind the Mars Express space probe are being put on show in an effort to get more people interested in the subject. Kate Williams is at Techniquest in Cardiff to find out what's on for science lovers in Wales.
If you thought science was all about test tubes and baggy lab coats, then you'd be wrong. I'm here at Techniquest in Cardiff Bay to find out why this week science is getting everyone excited.
Hi, my name's Tina Kripp. I'm an Education Programs Assistant here at Techniquest, and this year I'm the National Science Week Coordinator as well.
What's kind of this bit here of the exhibition?
Right, this is the main exhibition floor where we house approximately 150 hands-on exhibits for children to really play with. There's the downstairs as well as the upstairs area.
And you can hear that the kids are obviously enjoying themselves.
Yes, today we've got about 500 kids in at the moment.
So, I mean, I've just seen that hot air balloon kind of zoom up to the ceiling. What's that about?
Right, well, what that's showing is that basically hot air rises. What is inside that exhibit is a heater that heats up the air at the base. And then once it reaches a certain temperature, the children are allowed to hit the green button to actually launch the balloon, and just basically the energy of the heat inside the balloon causes it to rise up to the ceiling.
So do you think something like Techniquest does kind of stimulate learning?
Absolutely, because what will happen now is, like these primary kids, as an example, they'll go back to school, and not maybe today, but tomorrow or the following day, back in their lessons, they'll talk about things that they've done while they were here. And do you remember seeing the big tube with the bubbles going up in it? And then the teacher can then use that back in lessons.
So do you take kids of all ages?
Yes, we range from some of our programs. We have a toddler day, so that's anything under 5. We've got early years programs, so that's for 3 and 4, 5-year-olds. Then we've got Key Stage 1 all the way up through A level, and post 16, even adult evening things that we do here as well.
So it's a real kind of centre for science then?
Absolutely.
You're doing lots of kind of exhibits and things, and lots of programs for National Science Week.
Right, well, the theme that we've got running for National Science Week this year is sporty science. This weekend we've got golf, snooker, athletics, cricket again. So it's really looking at a real wide range of sports.
So that can kind of get adults involved as well, so they can learn about science.
Yes, absolutely. What we're trying to promote is that there is a lot of science behind sport, mostly physics, because you've got to, move your body and whatever to make things happen. So it's looking at how science is actually used in the different sports.
So why do you think it's so important to have centres like this?
Well, the main reason really is to get kids into an environment outside of the classroom where they can really go at things hands-on and learn about science. There's a huge drop in the number of people who are going into science as a career. And if that continues to happen, we aren't going to have any scientists in this country in the not so distant future. So by inspiring children, like this little boy here who's probably only about 7 or 8 years old, hopefully in 10 years' time when he's choosing what college course or university course he's going to do, hopefully, his visit today will inspire him to continue studying science all through school and hopefully do it as a career then.
That was our science correspondent, Kate Williams at Techniquest.
You're listening to CJS Breakfast. It's just coming up to 7:45. Now, I'm sure we're all well aware it's the big one for Wales this weekend on the rugby field. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, there aren't many better feelings than beating the English. But what's so special about beating them? We don't seem to mind losing to the Irish, but we just can't stand the English getting one up on us. Is it because they're arrogant, or now because they're the world champions? Well, it seems, talking to the people of Cardiff, it's a historical thing.
I don't think it's just the Welsh who get passionate about beating the English. I think it's everyone in general. It's just because, we're all Celts at the end of the day, and we want to get one over on the English, seeing as they're quite obnoxious most of the time.
They invaded Wales, and I think it just goes back hundreds of years, and there's that rivalry, and it's the minnows against the big boys. So
I don't know, it's just been going on for ages. It's just something that you're taught now, that you're not supposed to like people in England.
Oh, I think... have you got time for 1066 and all that? I think it's something genetic.
It's 7:45. You're listening to CJS Breakfast. The headlines this morning: Pakistani troops may be closing in on Osama bin Laden's second-in-command. Ayman al-Zawahiri is thought to have been cornered in mountains on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And more than 760 jobs are coming to Bridgend. Logica's CMG has confirmed it will be bringing over 1,000 jobs to Bridgend over the next 3 years. And trustees of the National Botanical Garden of Wales are under pressure to resign after the National Assembly has agreed to pay £900,000 to save the tourist site. But next we have to take a look in your wallet. How many school cards are in there? Probably too many for your liking, but do you know how much interest you're being charged on each of them? Well, if you do, you're one of the lucky few, according to new research from the Office of Fair Trading. They say shops have been getting away with overcharging and not providing customers with clear information about their store cards for far too long. But what do consumer organisations think? Anna Moreno from the National Consumer Council. Good morning, Anna.
Good morning.
So the Office of Fair Trading has today published their report into the issue of store cards. What is your response to that report?
Well, we think that this is good news for consumers. We welcome the OFT's decisive action. Store cards are a very expensive form of credit.
Because, for example, I spent £20 at a popular high street store card and I was advised to pay a minimum of £4 back a month. But yet what I didn't realise is that £4 was only covering the interest and wasn't actually paying back very much off the card. I mean, is the real problem about the level of interest rates?
The level of interest rates are quite alarming. Store cards are more expensive than credit cards, so people are paying well over the odds just to shop in their popular shop.
So do you think that anything concrete will happen to resolve this issue?
Well, I think it will take some time, and it's good news to see that they will be putting together a consumer awareness campaign. And I think that's very important, because if people out there understand what they're letting themselves in for, and they're able to compare APRs and understand what they mean, then they will be able to shop around.
So Anna, can you give me any sort of culprits of stores that don't necessarily inform their customers of how much the APR is?
I mean, there are lots of stores out there that really, the staff don't have the training, and people will walk into a shop and ask for information, and in most cases you can't take a piece of paper away with you and read and come back or sign up. And I would warn people about those kind of tactics. There should be a responsible approach on behalf of the retailer to offer people the information that they need to make the right choice.
Well, thank you very much for that advice. I'm sure our listeners will listen to that very carefully and be aware of using their cards too much in stores. Thank you very much for that, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to CJS Breakfast. So let's turn our attentions to world affairs with an ambitious attempt to go round the world in 80 seconds.
Well, the global week was dominated by terror, violence and the political aftermath of the Madrid bombings. Last weekend, Spain's Socialist Party won a shock election victory after voters appeared to turn on the government over its handling of the Madrid massacre. The country's new Prime Minister, José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, said his first priority was to fight terrorism. By Monday, he had stirred up a transatlantic hornet's nest by threatening to pull Spanish troops out of Iraq if nothing has changed there by June the 30th. Blair and Bush suddenly look isolated, and terror looms large on the world agenda once more. As if to confirm, on Wednesday a blast ripped through the Mount Lebanon Hotel in Baghdad. The strike killed almost 30 people and once again carried all the hallmarks of Al-Qaeda. On the same day, 6 people were killed in clashes between Kosovan Serbs and Albanians in the northern town of Mitrovica. Several fatal clashes have followed in the worst ethnic violence seen in Kosovo since the 1999 war. Yesterday, NATO responded by sending in reinforcements. About 1,000 new troops are being sent to support the 18,000 K4 peacekeepers already there, but the UN are pulling troops out. Meanwhile, in world sport, this week saw the Indian cricket team tour Pakistan for the first time since 1989. It is hoped that the tour will cement the peace process which the two subcontinent countries have just embarked on. Now I think it's time for the sport with Carly Jones-John.
Good morning. The top sporting story, Flynn flies from the Swan's Nest. Swansea City manager Brian Flynn has left the Vetch after a disagreement with club bosses. City's chairman Hugh Jenkins says the club parted company with manager Flynn and assistant Kevin Reeves because the pair live in North Wales and cannot commit themselves to the South Wales outfit. Jenkins issued a statement saying people need to be based full-time in the area and put Swansea first, but he insisted that they had not been sacked because of a slump in form. And it's Judgment Day. Today UEFA will decide whether to remove Russia from Euro 2004 because of Igor Titov's failed drugs test. If UEFA rule in Wales's favour, then they will take Russia's place in the competition, but Wales are not hopeful as they await the decision. If the appeal fails, they will take the case to the Court of Arbitration in Sport. Moving on to rugby now, and don't underestimate us. That's the message from Wales's Iestyn Harris. The fly half says Wales will not be the soft touch that England expect in the Six Nations clash at Twickenham tomorrow afternoon. Under-21s coach Chris Davey calls on one of the most famous names in rugby to help his Six Nations campaign. Gavin Quinnell, younger brother of Scott and Craig, has been drafted in to add some bulk at number 8. But the younger sibling is by far the heaviest, weighing in at 20 stones. And in the Welsh Rugby Premiership tonight, Caerphilly take on Ebbw Vale and Pontypridd play Swansea. Both teams' kick-off is at 7:15. That's the sport. Back to you.
It's just gone 10 to 8 with the big game tomorrow in the rugby. We've got some great sports specials on this morning's programme. For starters, ex-Welsh coach Phil Bennett will be speaking to us live. We also have a Welsh comedian on the show, and we'll take a look at Wales' past challenges against England. First though, Lucy?
Well, 14 Greenpeace activists were charged for chaining themselves to tanks in a bid to stop the Iraq war this week. The group say the protest was necessary to prevent an illegal war. During the case, Greenpeace lawyers attempted to summon the Attorney General to the court to have his advice on the legality of the war ahead. The activists say his advice was crucial to their defence. The judge refused to allow the Attorney General to appear. Well, one of the activists, Ben Aliff, joins us on the line now. Good morning, Ben.
Morning.
So, Ben, why is this case so important?
Well, I think it shows the lengths to which the government and the judiciary in this country are willing to go to sort of stamp down opposition to the war. In effect, by not giving us the access to the Attorney General's advice, we were really denied a fair trial. So, I mean, it's just an indication of the lengths that the government, are willing to go to.
So why did he want the Attorney General to appear?
Well, we believe that given that he was the government's top legal advisor, his advice to Tony Blair on whether or not the war was illegal is fundamental to a fair trial. I mean, I think that would be, that would be common sense. That would be obvious to any person. But for whatever reasons, the judge decided that it was, that it wasn't an important piece of evidence. It was amazing.
So I have to ask you, what was it like actually chaining yourself to the tank?
I mean, it was actually relatively easy to get in. I mean, it was probably easier to get in than a Swansea nightclub, this big military base. It was, we were there for a couple of hours. It took the sort of military police, at least an hour to get their act together. But it was very peaceful, and we delayed actions at the port for about 4 or 5 hours.
So, how were you treated and received?
At the port, I mean, it was very cordial. I mean, Greenpeace is well known for its adherence to non-violence. So, the police were fine. There was some bemused look from some of the soldiers who couldn't really understand what we were doing. But, myself and my fellow 14 defendants were, very passionate about what we were doing, and we firmly believed it was the right thing to do.
And finally, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, we're going to appeal. Our lawyers think that we have very strong grounds to appeal, and we intend to take this to a higher court and get the documents which we believe will overturn our conviction. We want to make it clear to the government this isn't going to go away, and that the real criminals in this issue are Tony Blair and Jack Straw.
Well, Ben, I hope you have a lot of luck with your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
Now, some sad news. A celebration of the life of former Lord Mayor of Cardiff, Ricky Ormond, who died last week, is taking place this very morning. Ormond, who was known as the People's Lord Mayor, will be given a musical send-off in Splot, where he was councillor for 25 years. The current Lord Mayor of Cardiff, Gordon Holston, was a close friend of Ricky Ormond's, and I'm pleased to say he joins us on the line now. Good morning to you, Mr. Holston.
Good morning. Good morning.
First of all, would you like to just say a few words about your friend and predecessor, Ricky Ormond?
Yes, I would, actually. Ricky's been a long friend of mine over 50 years, actually. He was a neighbour to start with, then we worked together. We allies in politics, in the Labour Party, and we've known each other for many years. He's a great friend of mine, was a great friend of mine.
And he was known as the People's Lord Mayor. Could you just elaborate on that for us?
Yes, he was. Ricky was very much a man of the people there. He was a councillor in Spot for over 25 years, and very close to the people there. When he became Lord Mayor, that gave him a bigger opportunity to sort of do things for the people that he wanted to do. He lived in a mansion house, and it was an open house for anybody who wanted to come along. Little charity groups, little organisations, and anybody at all is always welcome.
And what was his influence on you, both as Lord Mayor yourself and as a friend?
Well, it's very hard to follow, really, in Ricky's footsteps, because he made such an impact as the People's Lord Mayor. You can't copy that, you have to actually do it. And I think Ricky will be a one-off in that sense. We all do our best in different ways. Each Lord Mayor brings his own thing to the office. But Ricky brought a more of sort of a personal people's attitude, if you want to.
And I believe that the funeral cortege will be stopping outside Splot Leisure Centre this morning. What's the significance of that, Gordon?
He worked after a while when he finished as a councillor as a part-time handyman. And he spent some years he was there, so we're going to stop outside the Star for a few minutes to listen to some music. Then go on to Assembly and we'll come back to the Star after that again to have a cup of tea and a chat and some more music.
And of course it was St Patrick's Day on Wednesday. There'll be an Irish influence to the music, won't there?
Yes, there was. It would be, yes. I was at the St Patrick's Memorial in Cardiff Cemetery on Wednesday morning, and I asked for prayers for Ricky as a Dublin-born Irishman. I was very proud of his heritage as an Irishman, and that was well received.
Well, Gordon Holston, Lord Mayor of Cardiff, thanks very much for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
So that was sad news there. Ricky Ormond dying last week, and he's getting that send-off within a couple of hours this morning. You're listening to CJS Breakfast, a few minutes away from 8 o'clock. Now, of course, this week the kind of big sport that's been going on has been the Cheltenham Festival. Yes, mate. Yesterday, Best Mate won the Cheltenham Gold Cup for the third year in a row, a record breaker, Lucy. And I hear you got a bit lucky yesterday on the old GGs.
I wouldn't say it was luck. I would say that I was very informed on my decision. But yeah, I managed to get 14 quid out of my oh so ignorant course mates in a sweepstake.
£14, not bad, not bad.
Well, it pays for my train journey and a bit of food now and again.
Now, we've been looking through a couple of the papers this morning, and we've got one or two funny little stories for you. One involving the Chancellor, who of course has been in the news this week because of the budget. Basically, Chancellor Gordon Brown dented somebody else's car yesterday in a traffic jam, and then rushed off saying he was late for work. It's the kind of thing we all probably do from time to time, maybe, but you wouldn't really expect it from the Chancellor, Lucy.
No, I would expect him to be far more of an example to us. Just flicking through some more stories, though. Let's have a look. Usher, I'm proud to be a pal of Beck's. Well, if any of you don't know about Russia, he's the star of Bling Bling and a bit of a hip-hop mogul, and he's very proud to be a pal of Beck's. Would you be proud to be a pal of Beck's, Sandy?
I almost certainly wouldn't. Of course, we did mention at the top of the show, but just in case you missed it, the front pages this morning A couple of the papers, kind of understandably I suppose, can't hide their excitement at the fact that Pakistani forces have apparently captured a top Al-Qaeda figure. The Daily Express's front page says Bin Laden in our sights, which is probably a bit far-fetched at this time, but obviously it's a story that will continue to run. The Telegraph, meanwhile, declares Al-Qaeda mastermind trapped.
Yeah, and another big story today is the deepening Kosovo crisis, which is also getting a lot of front page treatment. We're going to bring you an up-to-date piece on that later on. Just to fill you in, the UN are pulling out troops from the northern town of Mitrovica, but Britain is sending 750 extra soldiers to the Balkans. The Times has said that Britain is rushing its troops in as Kosovo erupts. And The Independent carries a dramatic picture of UN vehicles on fire.
The Sun's gone with lock them up, a call from MPs for freed Camp X-Ray Brits to be put in prison, while the Mirror goes with rip-off store cards, apologies. That's a story we'll be doing later on in the show. We've also got Phil Bennett, the ex-Wales and Lions rugby player. He's going to be joining us live on the phone. And we're going to have a feature on music piracy, something else that's been in the news this week, with a George Michael announcement. And we've got a very special musical guest who has also done an interview for us, but we will keep that one to ourselves at the moment. So that's all coming up. It's just coming up to 8 o'clock, I believe. So plenty still to come on CJS Breakfast. We're going to be here until about 9:05 to hopefully ease you into the day and give you a bright start to the morning, Lucy.
Good morning, you're listening to CJS Breakfast.
It's 8 o'clock. The main stories this morning: Pakistani troops may be closing in on Osama bin Laden's second in command. More than 760 jobs are coming to Bridgend. And trustees of the National Botanical Garden of Wales are under pressure to resign. Here's Ruth Woodward with all the details.
Good morning. Osama bin Laden's second in command may be close to capture by Pakistani troops. Ayman al-Zawahiri is thought to have been cornered in mountains on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. There's fierce fighting in the area and local residents have been urged to leave the area. Sheikh Rashid Ahmed says his country is determined to see the operation to capture him succeed.
We have sacrificed a dozen people there for fighting against terrorism, and we are committed against the terrorism, and we'll finish all these terrorists.
A computer services company will bring more than 760 jobs to South Wales. Logica CMG has confirmed it will be bringing over 1,000 jobs to Bridgend over the next 3 years. The Anglo-Dutch firm provides financial and IT management services. The UN Security Council has condemned the ethnic violence in Kosovo, which has left more than 30 people dead. NATO has announced that it will send troop reinforcements, including 750 British soldiers into Kosovo, to try and stop the increased fighting between Serbs and Albanians. Former US envoy Richard Holbrooke says there appears to be only one solution.
In the end, Serbia and Kosovo will have to have a peaceful, friendly divorce. They will not be able to coexist under the same sovereignty.
European Union Justice and Home Affairs ministers meet this morning in Brussels to discuss how best to pool anti-terrorist resources in the wake of the Madrid bombings. Home Secretary David Blunkett is expected to suggest the creation of a European agency to assess counter-terrorism intelligence. At present, there is no formal system for EU countries to share such information. Mr Blunkett will also announce an extra £15 million for special branch and counter-terrorism units in England and in Wales. Trustees at Middleton at the National Botanical Garden of Wales are facing pressure to resign as part of a £900,000 deal they've accepted from the National Assembly to save the tourist site. It's unclear whether the resignation of the trustees was a condition of the deal. Here's more from our Carmarthenshire reporter, Triva Pfennig.
Cardiff County Council said he believed there'd be no council money without a change of management. But the trustees insist they're not resigning.
A man who indecently assaulted a girl at swimming baths in North Wales has been banned from every sports and leisure centre in the UK. This unusual order was made because Christopher John Paddy told Mould Crown Court that he assaulted the girl on 4 occasions in a Wrexham swimming pool. The 46-year-old was also jailed for 12 months and told to register as a sex offender for 10 years. The Church in Wales has failed to appoint a new bishop for the first time in its history. The panel who chooses the new bishop met in Bangor for 3 days, but could not agree on how a new choice of bishop following the retirement of Reverend Saunders Davis. The bench of bishops of the Church in Wales will take on the role while it consults with the Diocese of Bangor over a possible replacement. More people are surviving cancer, but there's a long way to go in the fight against the disease. A report from the National Audit Office says treatments have improved, but family doctors are failing to spot cancer in the early stages, delaying treatments for 1 in 3 patients. Spokesman James Robinson says there's a lot of work still to be done.
More people are living longer, but that's not to say that we can't get improvements. The delays for getting diagnosis and then therapy are longer than they should be in order to get the best outcomes.
Hereditary peers in the House of Lords are here to stay. The Lord Chancellor, Lord Falconer, has announced the bill proposing the removal of the peers is being dropped because of so much opposition. Despite this, he says that the issue will return in Labour's general election manifesto. A study of wildlife trends in the United Kingdom has suggested that the world is facing the biggest extinction crisis since the demise of the dinosaurs. The research, published in the journal Science, has found that insects, which form the majority of the Earth's species, are disappearing more quickly than previously thought. 4 brothers killed by their father at a North Wales beauty spot are being remembered by their classmates. A garden of remembrance will be opening at the school in Cheshire where the boys were pupils. Joshua Young, aged 7, and his 3 younger brothers died in a fume-filled car at the Horseshoe Pass in Llangollen over a year ago. School children from Cardiff are taking part in the world's largest poetry reading. Pupils from Llanishen High School will be reciting Daffodils, the famous poem by Wordsworth, along with 150,000 children across Britain. The event has been organised to raise money for the Marie Curie Cancer Charity. Drivers in Wales have the cleanest cars in Britain, according to a new survey. Welsh drivers visit the car wash more than 6 times a year. That's more than car owners in other parts of the UK. That's the news from CJS. We'll be back at 8:30.
Welcome back to CJS Breakfast with me, Andy Stevenson.
And me, Lucy Skinner. Next on the programme, Microsoft in Welsh.
Internet, away, search, chwilio, programme, rhaglen.
A history lesson in Welsh rugby.
Griffiths off the Netley. Now can he get the touch? Can Elgin Rees get there? It would be a remarkable try, and he's made it.
And our ex-Welsh captain Phil Bennett will be joining us live.
Also, Ruth Woodward's special report on music piracy.
You leave what's basically a youth activity to a bunch of old men in grey suits. They completely miss the whole point.
But in the studio now we have Sean Morgan with the latest business report.
Steelmaker Chorus have praised its Welsh plants after cutting losses for the first time in 2 years. The company reported a substantial improvement in full-year results after annual losses narrowed to 350 million. Chorus currently employs 7,800 people in Wales. Its biggest single site is the steelworks at Port Talbot, where there are 2,900 staff. The owner of British Steel says that better times are just around the corner. We're a hard-working bunch in Wales, but despite working incredibly long hours, we are not adverse to frittering away our earnings on treats to reward ourselves. This is according to new research from Yorkshire Bank. 1 in 4 people say they regularly work more than their contracted hours. However, 41% admitted they often waste money on treats they do not need. with 30% of workers frittering away at least £100 a month. The FTSE 100 is down by 1.32%. That's the business this morning.
Thank you very much for that, Sean. And now we've got Kate Williams in the studio with the latest weather.
Good morning. The Met Office have issued a warning to drivers to be careful this morning because of the severe gales gusting up to 50 miles per hour and the heavy rain affecting South Wales. This looks set to continue for the rest of the day, but the rain is expected to clear later. At the weekend, it will start off dry, but the strong gales are here to stay. So if you're travelling to Twickenham tomorrow, wrap up warm. Top temperatures reaching around 12 degrees Celsius.
You're listening to CJS Breakfast. It's coming up to 10 past 8. It sounds like a blustery old day. And now, as we mentioned in the first half hour, a survey out today says we in Wales have the cleanest cars in Britain, outdoing the Scots and the English. Now, from talking to people in Cardiff, it seems the weather may have something to do with it.
We have a lot of rain in Wales, so perhaps that's why we got the cleanest cars.
Considering on the actual weather we have down here, they have to be cleaned regularly.
I'm from England, not very regularly. I wait till it rains.
Now, guys at the Gabalfa interchange at a car wash there. I'm assuming it's raining there, Guy.
Yeah, it is still, Andy. It's slightly calmed down a little bit, but they still haven't had anyone in at the car wash since 2 o'clock this morning. Car wash staff here are attributing that almost certainly to the heavy rain that the region's been experiencing this morning. They say they're normally a lot more popular.
No car wash, eh? What a surprise. What's the latest travel update you've got for us, Guy?
Well, the heavy downpours, Andy, are making driving conditions very, very difficult. For instance, on the A1 470 northbound to Taffwell, there's heavy traffic there, and also on junction 34 on the M4. Arriva and Central trains, their services are running on time, so they're not experiencing the same problems, obviously. So it's not looking too bad overall, perhaps. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Guy. Getting you to work on time. That's Guy McCree.
Now, one of the top stories in the news today is that 750 British troops are being deployed to Kosovo due to the growing ethnic violence. 31 people have now died in the worst violence since the 1999 Kosovo War, and about 500 have been injured. NATO have appealed for the extra forces to boost security in the region, reinforcing the 18,500 already there. Jonathan Wells, our World Affairs editor, is with me. What's the latest this morning?
Well, the attacks still continue, and there seems to be no sign of let-up at the moment. Just to recap, the trouble began on Wednesday in the divided city of Mitrovica, which is in the centre of Kosovo. The attacks soon multiplied and spread throughout Kosovo and into Serbia. But now, in a new and more worrying development, UN vehicles have been set ablaze in the Serbian capital, Belgrade, and Albanian rioters are also targeting Finnish peacekeepers, who until recently they described as their protectors. UN staff have now been pulled out of Mitrovica in Kosovo as well. I spoke to Mike Unguzmar, who's been working alongside the UN mission in Kosovo in setting up an apolitical journalism school. I asked him why now, after a period of relative calm, did the violence suddenly erupt?
Well, I think in the Balkans, anywhere you go, whether it's Bosnia or Montenegro or Kosovo, where the Serbs from the former Yugoslavia met head-on in this divided city, with the Kosovo Albanians. Imagine a situation in Cardiff where on one side of the River Taff you had mortal enemies, and on the other side you had mortal enemies, and all you had to do is have some problem on a bridge, and it sparked the kind of violence that we're now seeing, sadly.
But do you believe it's as serious as it's been made out to be?
When people in governments, the NATO governments, decide to send British troops in and American reinforcements, then I think it clearly is very serious.
Then they're not overreacting?
No, I don't think they're overreacting. I think probably the sensible thing to do is to try to contain this now before it involves countless thousands of others. At one time, there was a sizable Serbian minority there. Now it's down to, I think, 10, 15, 20,000 people living in enclaves protected by UN forces. And so that kind of tension exists, but there is very little in the way that Kosovo Albanians could do to target the Serbs because there aren't that many left in the province.
So what next, Jonathan?
Well, Kosovo is a region around the size of Wales, and it is no further than the Costa del Sol from the UK. Indeed, Jack Straw, the Foreign Secretary, has spoken about it being on Europe's doorstep. So it's very much in the interest of Europe for Kosovo to be sorted out as soon as possible. And unlike Iraq, America and Europe are in full agreement that the occupying peacekeeping forces are absolutely necessary. Lucy.
Thank you very much for that, Jonathan. Well, you're listening to CJS Breakfast. It's coming up to 8:15.
Now, an interesting one this. Microsoft and the Welsh Language Board have announced a partnership to provide software for Welsh speakers. The Welsh language is to be introduced into Microsoft Windows as part of a project to increase usage by minority language speakers. Samira Isat tells us more.
Agor. Email. E-bost. Message. Internet. Away. Search. Chwilio. Program. Rhaglen.
Welsh is one of 40 new languages due to be added in response to complaints from around the world that youngsters were losing their native tongues. Earlier, I spoke to the managing director of the Welsh Language Training Centre in Cardiff, Ivor Griffith, to find out whether the new technology will actually help in taking the Welsh language further and who would benefit from it.
Well, certainly in general terms, I think there's been call for software which can be used through the medium of Welsh in a number of workplaces throughout Wales, where currently people who are working through the medium of Welsh are having to use English language software at the moment. So certainly I'm quite confident that there will be a market and a need for this provision.
And it's not only students or people in education that stand to benefit from using the new technology.
And when you think of various establishments throughout the country, just to give you an example, perhaps local authorities in predominantly Welsh-speaking areas whose administration is mostly through the medium of Welsh, then this is going to be a major contribution to the way they work.
The new technology introduces words associated with computer use.
The term e-bostio and the plural e-byst is commonly used in Welsh for email.
Computer. Cyfrifiadur. Technology. Technoleg. File. Fail. Shut down. Kai.
That was Samira Isat with that report. Now, we have got an interview with Catherine Jones from the Welsh Language Board, but she's just stuck in a bit of traffic at the moment. Surprised Guy didn't pick up on that. So we'll be coming back to her in a bit.
It's 8:15, you're listening to CJS Breakfast. Today's headlines. Osama bin Laden's second in command may be close to capture by Pakistani troops. A computer services company will bring more than 760 jobs to South Wales. And the UN Security Council has condemned the ethnic violence in Kosovo, which has left more than 30 people dead. 4 brothers killed by their father at a North Wales beauty spot are to be remembered by their classmates today. And trustees of the National Botanical Garden of Wales are under pressure to resign after the National Assembly has agreed to pay £900,000 to save the tourist site.
Now, we're very pleased to say on CJS Breakfast that we're joined by Western Mail columnist Adrian Butler. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning.
Now, there's been more reaction from Wednesday's budget in the papers today, I believe.
Well, Gordon Brown was never going to get away with it for long. He managed to put off some great reviews yesterday for his budget, but today the press is back on the warpath. Now comes day 2, says the Daily Mail, and as so often when the small print is studied, doubts begin to stir. The paper doesn't think the Chancellor will be able to sack all those taxmen, and it warns the Inland Revenue is predicting a shambles.
But is there any news of all those civil servants facing the sack? I mean, some of them must be furious at how they're being treated.
Well, these civil servants don't have a reputation for being the most outgoing people, but it looks like that's about to change. Today's Western Mail spoke to an angry lady from the Department of Work and Pensions here in Cardiff. She says she doesn't know where the cuts are going to come from because her office in Canton is actually understaffed. She only earns 14 grand a year and she's worried she may lose her home if Gordon Brown sacks her.
Now, what are the other broadsheets talking about? Myself and Lucy did notice this morning that The Guardian's got an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, it has got an interesting one. The Guardian gives the whole of the top of its page to earth-shattering news. I think earth-shattering if you're a Guardian reader, that is. Warns that 70% of British butterflies are declining and our animals face mass extinction.
I mean, but does that story really need all that space?
Well, The Guardian doesn't really have that much choice at the moment. Staff on the paper are desperately worried about sales. They're at their lowest for 25 years. It's really trying as hard as it can to get readers off The Independent without looking too vulgar. Not always an easy job, as you can see today.
Now, the Mirror's got an interesting feature, I believe, on its comment page.
Well, I don't know where our civil servant from Cardiff fit into this, but the Mirror's saying there are only 27 types of women. That's 27. Sharpen your pencils, letter writers. These include Mutton Mama, the only size 10 she looks good in is her shoes. Their examples, Vanessa Feltz.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Another funny one is Try Harder. They describe this as an art student type with wacky hair, flirty but with no follow through. Well, their examples, Alex Parks. Just trying to get ratings. Do we believe them? Up to you.
Yeah, we'll leave that one to our listeners. Thanks very much, Adrian, for coming in. Appreciate that.
Thank you very
That was Adrian Butler from the Western Mail.
Okay, well, getting back to this story about Microsoft and the Welsh Language Board, just to remind you, they've announced a partnership to provide software for Welsh speakers. The Welsh language is to be introduced into Microsoft Windows as part of a project to increase usage by minority language speakers. Now, I'm very lucky to be joined by Katrin Jones from the Welsh Language Board. Good morning, Katrin.
Hello there.
So, do you think the new technology that Microsoft proposed is going to help move or take the Welsh language further?
Well, we believe it's going to take the Welsh language further because we honestly do believe there is a demand for it. First of all, we think that people use, because they, as first language speakers, they need their keyboard to reflect their line of thought. There are online Welsh websites, so if you're in a Welsh frame of mind, then it makes sense that your keyboard reflects that. As we know as well, there are different Welsh sounds, such as ech and which are very different to the English sounds, so it can make life easier for a Welsh speaker.
So can Welsh adapt as a computer language, though?
Well, we honestly believe it can adapt as a computer language. As I say, you've got the Welsh Google, you've also got things such as the Welsh email provision. So things are developing all the time, so we honestly need a new keyboard to reflect that.
But is there enough of a demand for a Welsh Microsoft, do you think?
Well, we do believe that the new system will be successful because you do have many institutions that work solely through the medium of Welsh. You've got translating services, and for them we think that this service will be invaluable.
So how popular do you believe the new system will be?
Well, we do think it will be very popular, as I say, in homes and in offices across the country. Time will tell, but we're developing it all the time.
Thank you so much for that, Katrin. So now we're going over to Carly Jones with the sport.
The top sporting story, Flynn flies from the Swan's nest. Swansea City manager Brian Flynn has left the Vetch after a disagreement with club bosses. City's chairman Hugh Jenkins says the club parted company with manager Flynn and assistant Kevin Reeves because the pair live in North Wales and cannot commit themselves to the South Wales outfit. Jenkins issued a statement saying people need to be based full-time in the area and put Swansea first, but he insisted they had not been sacked because of a slump in form. And it's Judgment Day. Today, UEFA will decide whether to remove Russia from Euro 2004 because of Igor Titov's failed drug test. It's expected that UEFA will uphold their decision, but Wales manager Mark Hughes believes he has a strong case. I'm sorry, we're having a little difficulty with that.
I don't know. Maybe they're not aware of the case that we prepared, so maybe they wouldn't make that assumption. I think we've got a good case. We just have to present it well and hope the right decision's made.
Don't underestimate us, that's the message from Wales' Iestyn Harris. The fly half says Wales will not be the soft touch that England expect in the Six Nations clash at Twickenham tomorrow afternoon. And under-21 coach Chris Davey calls on one of the most famous names in rugby to help his Six Nations campaign. Gavin Quinnell, younger brother of Scott and Craig, has been drafted in to add some bulk at number 8. But the younger sibling is by far the heaviest, weighing in at 20 stones. And in the Welsh Rugby Premiership tonight, Caerphilly take on Ebbw Vale and Pontypridd play Swansea. That's it, back to you.
Thank you very much, Carly. Well, Welsh rugby has had mixed fortunes from the golden era of the 1970s to rugby's Great Depression in the 1990s. So as Wales travel to Twickenham today, Carly Jones-Johns looks back at happier times gone by, including Wales's last victory against England 6 years ago.
Wales defeated England.
At 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Wales take on England at Fortress Twickenham. But 2 weeks ago, Ireland's Green Army charged at the English battalion. The Celts beat the World Cup holders 19 points to 13. A battered, low-slung chariot painted green has for the past 2 weeks been in for repair, and many forecast that the English army will be chomping at the bit to reassert themselves as the best team in the world. But will it be a whitewash for Wales? History isn't on our side. England have lost just one of their last 10 Six Nation matches against Wales. But there have been happier times.
Griffiths off the Nethley. Now can he get the touch? Can Elgin Rees get there? It would be a remarkable try, and he's made it! Elgin Rees of Neath, the scorer. The crowd are invading the pitch. J.J. Williams asks them to get off.
In the 1970s, the Six Nations had become the jewel in the crown of Northern Hemisphere rugby, but the crown belonged to Wales. They dominated the 1970s, the golden era of Welsh rugby, producing a production line of Welsh rugby legends.
Fenwick, has he equalled the record? Yes, he has.
So there it was, proof surely that the great traditions handed down by the recently departed had been warmly embraced by the new generation. That game, incidentally, was the last home match of the 70s, during which the Welsh lost not a single game against European opposition in Cardiff. And in his very last game for Wales, JPR had fulfilled an ambition, that of leading his team to a Five Nations title.
And who can forget Wembley? In 1999, Max Boyce and Tom Jones spurred the players on to victory. Gibbs's last-minute try halted another Grand Slam attempt by England. Wales won in a thrilling 32-31 victory.
We're joined by a real-life living legend now on CJS Breakfast. Good morning to Wales and Lions star Phil Bennett.
Good morning.
Good morning. How do you think Wales are going to be approaching the game tomorrow?
Well, I think they'll be quite nervous because they're probably expecting a backlash from England after their defeat against Ireland. But I think they'll take a lot of confidence from the fact that they pushed England all the way in the World Cup. I think conditions will be pretty rotten tomorrow. They're giving wind, gales and hail, and so, you know, I think they'll be sort of knowing that if they can match England up front, they have a good platform, they've got the backs behind if the weather conditions allow to use their skills.
Sure, and do you think England really are in such a bad way? I mean, has that been overplayed since the Ireland game?
Yeah, I think that, you know, every team is entitled to a bad day, and England had an awful day that day. Ireland were magnificent. They did the best line-up performance I've ever seen from Ireland. Paul O'Connell was absolutely incredible. And England, I think, lost 11 line-out throws on their own throw-in. Steve Thompson had a nightmare. I think they'll have worked hard to put that right. I think they will target Wales in the scrums. And I think they missed two great players in Martin Johnson and Johnny Wilkinson. But they've got enough talent to become again to show why they were champions. And I'm expecting a big game from Jason Robertson, who will probably play on the wing and full-back and switch positions. But you never know. Catch them early, and perhaps they'll be a little bit apprehensive.
And I'm obviously going to have to put you on the line. Could you give us a quick score prediction?
I think England will win. I think it'll be closer than people think, simply because we're expecting an awful day there. I expect England to win by about 8 to 10 points.
Now, I've been told by my editor to ask you this, because we've been running the story this morning about Welsh people washing their cars more than any other nationality. I mean, do you kind of do that?
Well, I'm very lucky. My friend owns an Esso garage, so once a week I go in, get a free sort of ticket out of him, put it into the machine, and he washes my car for me. If it was left for me to do it, I'd have the dirtiest car in Wales. Simple as that.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Phil. Let's hope it goes Wales' way tomorrow. Thanks very much for joining us.
No problem. All the best.
You're listening to CJS Breakfast. It's just coming up to 8:30. And now it seems the critics have finally seen, or rather tasted, the light. According to many recent reviews, Welsh cuisine is now better than ever. And with a much admired new restaurant guide published, Dining Out in Wales, they foresee great things for the Welsh food industry. Our reporter Richard Kimber has been to find out if we should believe them.
Table 24, please.
Okay, so we're in the kitchens of Blas, which is a restaurant in Cardiff which specialises in Welsh food and organic food. Joined with one of the chefs, who's Callum, here today. In this restaurant, you're wanting to use as much Welsh ingredients as possible. I mean, do you really feel like, as a chef, that these are that much better than their kind of English equivalents or standard other things that are available?
Yeah, much better, because it's all fresh. Everything's farmed from Wales, everything is in Wales, so we get the manufacturers companies coming into work and just showing us the actual produce, how it's been made and everything.
Just looking at the leeks again, they're really steaming now, aren't they? Yeah. It seems all to be about patience, this Welsh organic cuisine. You've got the soup cooking for a while, you've got the leeks cooking for a while, so nothing
gives all the flavours then, so you've got to give it time to reduce and everything, so the longer it stays on, the better, really. So like, say for instance, now this sauce is for the special.
Oh, right. What's in this sauce, sorry?
Well, it's just a brings bit of reduction.
Oh, right. So there's another sort of local brew. What's the special today for that's for?
It's braised leg of lamb.
Right.
With honey roast pat. That's what you get is Welsh honey.
Oh, right.
So
the whole thing.
Rosemary, roast potatoes, butter crushed sweetener, but that's a Welsh butter as well. So you've got a Welsh butter coming in.
Yeah. Obviously, everything in this restaurant is Welsh, like you're describing. Literally every ingredient you put in. Do you think that at the moment it's sort of taking that kind of approach to really raise the awareness about Welsh food?
We try to use as much Welsh food as we can, but then you've got the other restaurants that's just a little bit here and there, and they just throwing it in and it's Welsh, but it's not. You've got a lot of English things going in it.
Yeah, I mean, this dining guide's just been published, Dining Out in Wales, where to go, what the best ways to look out for this Welsh food is. I mean, do you think that Welsh food doesn't really have the reputation it deserves?
I think a lot of the places are going to start realising how good Welsh food is, and they are actually starting, and if you go into other restaurants, so it's good to see it.
The Welsh food industry really seems to be broadening out. Welsh cuisine really is on the up, and long may it continue. Back to you in the studio.
And we'll be hearing more from Richard later in the programme when he puts Welsh cuisine under the ultimate scrutiny. So I'll be looking forward to that. Hey Andy, fancy taking me out for dinner later?
We'll see, don't push your luck. It's coming up to 8:30. This is CJS Breakfast with Lucy Skinner and Andy Stevenson. Stay tuned, we've got plenty more coming up. But first, here's Samira Ethat with the latest news.
Good morning. European Union. And finally, more than 250,000 children are trying to break the world record for the biggest ever poetry reading. At 1,200 schools, pupils will be reciting Daffodils by William Wordsworth, which was written 200 years ago.
And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils.
And that's the news from CJS. We'll be back at 9 o'clock.
CJS Breakfast with Andy Stevenson and myself, Lucy Skinner. Still to come this morning, Welsh rock singer Tracy Welsh joins us live.
I'm a winner.
Welsh comedian Paul Allen delivers his own personal message to the English rugby team.
And we'll join our very own Keith Floyd back at Brad's restaurant.
Just going in now. Well, that is delicious.
But first, we're probably all guilty of it, I know I am. It is becoming all too easy and often free to download music from the internet. This week, George Michael has announced that he'll only be releasing new songs on the internet. Fans will be able to log on and download his songs for free. But what's the reaction of the music industry, which loses thousands of pounds a year because of illegal downloading of music on the internet? Here's a special report from Ruth Woodward.
Downloading music from the internet is a contentious trend in the music industry. Single sales dropped by 30% last year because it's easier and cheaper for fans to click on a mouse and get the music for free. George Michael's announcement has caused a bit of a stir. He says his priority is attracting a wider audience to his music, not making money. Matt Phillips from the British phonographic industry thinks it's sending out the wrong message to illegal downloaders.
What works for George Michael is certainly fine for him. The problem is that it does send out a bit of a message that music is kind of, can be presented for free, and you've got to look at the big picture. Our ambition is to raise awareness that it's actually highly illegal to do it. You really shouldn't be doing it. And it's also illegal to offer files to other people on the internet.
But is downloading music really a bad thing? Drummer Dave Rowntree is a member of indie band Blur. He thinks the music industry should embrace new technology and that downloading is positive for artists, record companies and for the fans. I asked him what he thinks about George Michael's decision.
It is a marketing tool. We should have to see whether it works or not. George Michael, I do what he likes. I'm not kind of rabidly in favour of the internet and everything going on it and this being kind of magical. I don't think that'll make a better world at all. But certainly treating people that use the internet like lepers won't make a better world either. And this all goes down to people like the BPI who haven't done their arse from their elbow when it comes to technology.
Fans will continue to illegally download music from the internet as long as it's good quality, accessible and free. But what are the repercussions for new artists? Will Young is one of the most popular singers in the pop industry. He released his latest single on Monday and finds out on the weekend whether he'll be reaching #1 in the charts for the 6th time. Fans stealing his single from the internet could affect his place in the charts. I quizzed him about his thoughts on the illegal downloading of music and how it affects him as an artist. Does it concern you as an artist that so many people can download your music illegally off the internet?
Well, it's quite funny actually, because downloading has been, let's say, something that's been big over the last 3-4 years. I mean, I remember people doing it at the end of my second year at university, and it's funny because I now have two perspectives on it, because when I was a student I thought, oh, fantastic, free music. And now, I'm a singer and a songwriter and I'm selling my music. Obviously I want more people to buy my music to make my business successful. And it does lose, record companies and artists lose about 40% of their profits now. But I have friends of mine who download, and people come up to me, funnily enough, in the street. This is really funny. I mean, when I was in Australia in January, someone came up to me and said, I love your album, I've just downloaded it off the internet. I thought, you cheeky
Yeah, but I suppose it is difficult to stop because so much is available online, and you can just do it.
Yeah. To be honest, I'd rather concentrate on other more serious aspects on the internet, like child porn and things like that, before going to the music thing. I think if they can solve that, then they can move on to the music thing.
That was Ruth Woodward reporting, and we'll be talking to an up-and-coming Welsh rock artist live on the show later. So now let's get some weather. We've got Kate Williams in the studio.
Good morning. The Met Office have issued a warning to drivers to be careful this morning because of the severe gales gusting up to 50 miles per hour and the heavy rain affecting South Wales. The rain is expected to clear later and there'll be some sunny spells this afternoon, but tonight it will be cloudy and windy with more wet weather. At the weekend it will start off dry, but rain and showers will move in on Sunday. The strong winds are set to stay, so wrap up warm. Top temperatures reaching around 12 degrees Celsius, but it will feel colder. So that's all for the weather. Now it's over to Guy McCree with the travel.
Thanks very, very much, Kate. I've been at the car wash here all morning at Tesco Car Wash in Western Avenue. We haven't had a single car here at all. We haven't really been able to test the survey at all. It says Welsh motorists are the cleanest, keep their cars the cleanest. But the car wash staff here say they're usually more popular. Travel-wise, it's looking reasonably good on the roads now. The major problems of the rain seem to have cleared from earlier. There's still a problem on the A4119 on Fairwater Road in Llandaff, where there's been a traffic light problem there. And there's also roadworks continuing on the M4 both ways between junctions 36 and 37. That's between Porthcawl and Bridgend. Looking ahead to the big rugby match at Twickenham this weekend now, and travel plans for anyone going there. If you're driving to Twickenham, there really aren't any major problems that have been reported. The problems really start once you get into London. And with the London Underground, the Piccadilly line on the London Underground is having essential maintenance work carried out over the weekend. So that's going to cause problems for anyone, and people should be aware of that. There's a replacement bus service available from Ealing Common, and on the District line, it'll be running as normal. All Underground tickets will be valid for the bus all day. It's back to you in the studio.
Thanks very much, Guy. That was Guy McCree. He gets all the worst jobs, doesn't he? He has to stand outside a car wash all
Can't
morning.
believe he's
But
still
we
there.
go.
Now, Andy, I don't know what you're up to this weekend, but there seems to be so much in Cardiff. We could be spoilt for choice.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be a typical bloke and probably just stay in and watch the rugby, I'm afraid, Lucy.
Oh, I can't believe you. There must be more to life than rugby. Well, let's see if our entertainment correspondent Becky Bryce can inspire us with some ideas for what to do this weekend.
From sultry sounds to musical madness, active art to sexy salsa, there's something for everyone in Cardiff this weekend. For a couple of quid, you can shake off the week's stress by taking a salsa class at Chapter Art Centre. That's this evening at 7 o'clock. Or, if you want to leave the leg warmers to the professionals, Beyond Phantom is a musical review celebrating 200 years of musicals. That's at the Aberdare Coliseum starting at 7:30 p.m. Now, whether you're celebrating or commiserating after Saturday's big game, there's a whole host of activities happening. Cardiff Bay is having an art attack, so if you're creatively minded, go and experiment with arts and crafts materials, weaving, plaiting, or you never know, you might be able to make that last-minute Mother's Day present. Now, to keep the kids happy, take them to the CIA to see The Bear in the Big Blue House. Backed by popular demand, the all-singing, all-dancing 7-foot bear will keep the family rocking out. If singing bears aren't your style, then Welsh band Zabrinsky will be strumming their stuff at Clubby for Bach. The band were recently up for Best Live Band at the Welsh Music Awards, and they'll be playing from 9 o'clock onwards. For the lucky few who have acquired tickets, tonight's the night of the sellout concert, A Night in the Company of Bryn Terfel at St David's Hall. Now, if you're whining and dining your mother this Sunday, why not chill out at Cafe Jazz? Their popular Sunday lunch menu is now complemented by solo piano performances. Requests can be taken between 1 and 3 o'clock, helping to make Mother's Day a little more special. And finally, for you culture vultures, Sunday is the final performance of award-winning playwright Gary Owen's Ghost City at Chapter Art Centre. Get ready to see Cardiff stripped of its graffiti and hubbub, leaving behind what's really important, its people. In 24 little hours on your streets, anything could happen, so get on down to Chapter and find out just what. The performance begins at 7 o'clock.
Well, there's obviously no shortage of stuff to do this weekend in Cardiff, thanks to Becky for that. But staying on an entertainment theme, up-and-coming Welsh rock singer Tracy Welsh is with us this morning, and she's just released her first album. Tracy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to speak to you.
Well, as you can hear, we're playing your song in the background, but we downloaded it from the internet. Was it your decision to put it on the internet?
Depends where you got it from, to be honest. There's so many things on there now that you can get free. So where did you get it from, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we can't possibly advertise that. But is it something you think you're going to be doing in the future? Just keep on putting new tracks on the internet? I mean, it's something that George Michael has announced he'll be doing.
Yeah, I'll be doing, obviously, you know, people like Kazar and Morpheus who used to be on. I won't be putting them on articles, but my own website would be, you can get anything you like off that.
And who would you say your musical influence is? When we were listening to it last night, I suggested maybe a bit of Anastasia.
Yeah.
Is that an insult? I'm sorry, Tracy. Is that an insult?
No, not at all. She's great. I'd say people like Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, you know, the greats, you know, they're my sort of idols, to be honest.
Absolutely, can't knock a bit of living on a prayer. But Auntie and I have heard that this song is inspired by your passion for rugby. Who do you think is going to win tomorrow?
Oh, come on, it's obvious. Wales are going to win it.
Absolutely.
With the song on their side as well, you know, you can't beat me. The words are there. It's for the Welsh team. As long as they keep their hearts, the fire in their hearts, they'll do it.
So very briefly, let's imagine you're singing to the boys live right now. They're listening to you. Do you feel like giving us some live action?
Of course I will. I'll sing my favourite verse, very out of tune out of time, okay?
Great stuff.
After three,
okay.
2, 1. Go.
You got fortune, you got fame, 'cause you played the right game. I'm down on luck and I don't give a beat, 'cause you can't beat me. Yeah, I'm a winner. No, and you can't beat me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right,
Oh,
well,
that's brilliant. That's
very good.
Awesome.
I'll leave the beat for you to decide what that is. I'm sure you'll
So
pick that up.
just briefly, Tracy, what would be your massive ambition then in music?
Worldwide domination.
Oh, that'll do, I think, won't it, Lucy?
That's fair enough. That's a fair
Just so you
ambition.
bluntly. Anyway.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Tracy, for joining us. I'm sure you'd inspire the lads with a voice like that, and we wish you every success.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
So it's just gone 8:45. You're listening to CJS Breakfast. Hope you're having a good morning wherever you are. Here with the main headlines: European Union Justice and Home Affairs Ministers are meeting in Brussels today to discuss how to coordinate anti-terrorist resources in the wake of the Madrid bombings. In Spain, a judge is due to decide today whether 5 people arrested in connection with the Madrid bombing should be charged. And Pakistani troops have been involved in fierce fighting with Islamic militant groups in a mountainous area on the border with Afghanistan.
That's your headlines, but now it's time to catch up again with our reporter and wannabe food critic Richard Kimber. Last time we heard from him, he was investigating the current revival in Welsh cuisine. As we join him again now, he's running that revival past his taste buds.
Table 24, please.
Okay, so we're in the kitchens of Blas, which is a restaurant in Cardiff which specialises in Welsh food and organic food. Joined with one of the chefs, who's Callum, here today. This is the lamb cow that's being ordered here, so he's putting this one together.
Just going to put it into the bowl now.
That's a very traditional sort of Welsh dish. What's actually in the cow?
It's Welsh lamb, leg of lamb. Got all the mixed vegetables, got carrots, onions, celery, sweet potatoes. We've got all the herbs going in. This is the crouton now for the cow, which is a lava bread crouton, so that's Welsh as well.
And that's the bread that's seaweed flavoured?
Yeah, that's the lava bread, yeah. And just a bit of garnish now, just to finish it off.
Got some lamb cowl in front of me. Just going in now. Well, that is delicious. It's really good. Nice. Everything's so soft, you know.
Yeah,
exactly right. Nothing's.
No, it's not.
But again, not overcooked. You know, it's
Yeah.
not sort of crumbly or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the sauce, it looks to the eye like it perhaps hasn't got much to it. It's quite sort of thin, isn't it? But yet so sort of flavoursome.
That's it.
Just probably as you say, because it's been cooked for such a long time.
Yeah. It's like when we do our own soups as well, we thicken it with flour. It's like the cow, we don't tend to thicken it.
Right.
Because like, as you chill it down, it goes all stodgy.
Right.
Thick again.
Because usually with sort of sauces, that to the eye, you think, oh, a nice thick sauce, going to be really sort of full and flavoursome. And when it's slightly thinner, often you can look at it and think, well, I'm not sure about this. It looks a bit watery or something. But with this, you sort of taste it, and suddenly it feels like an explosion inside your mouth.
Don't eat with your eyes.
That's right. That's right. I'm just having a quick look around the shop in the Blas restaurant. They've got all manner of items available here, all of course Welsh. They've got jams, chocolates, mussels, all sorts of oils, dressings, cheeses, fish, crisps, you name it. The Welsh food industry really seems to be broadening out and embracing all that's on offer. And from personal experience, having just tried some of the things that are on offer here, I can safely reassure everybody that the Welsh cuisine really is on the up, and if it continues to taste this good, then long may that continue. Back to you in the studio.
Well, she's bribing me here with sweets in the studio to take her out to dinner, but we'll have to see about that.
Oh, come on, Andy. After listening to that, we've got to go out tonight. I'll just have to huff off in a showbiz style if you refuse to take me.
We'll go on then.
Oh. Anyway, just before we hand over to Carly with all the sport from CJS Breakfast, we find out your views on who you think will win the big rugby game this Saturday. Do we stand a chance against the world champions?
I think it'll be quite close. England, though.
I think it'll be England, to be honest with you. I can't see Wales pushing England that far tomorrow, to be honest. I think there'll be a bit of a backlash after the Ireland match.
I think England undoubtedly firm favourites at the start, but with the changes in the Welsh side, if the front row stands up to it, we're in with a shout. There might be a surprise.
Wales, I'm going with my heart. Well, I don't really, the trouble is I'm sort of like nonplussed about it. As long as it's a really good match, I don't mind.
And now we're going over to Carly Johns-Jones with the sports.
The top sporting story, Swansea City manager Brian Flynn has left the Vetch after a disagreement with club bosses. In a surprise departure, Flynn is the 5th manager in 2 years to leave the Division 3 side. The departure's made even more surprising since Flynn rescued City from relegation last season. And it's Judgment Day. Today UEFA will decide whether to remove Russia from Euro 2004 because of Igor Titov's failed drugs test. It's expected that UEFA will uphold their decision, but Wales manager Mark Hughes believes he has a strong case.
Maybe people have already assumed that it's a done deal. I don't know. Maybe they're not aware of the case that we prepared, so maybe they wouldn't make that assumption. I think we've got a good case. We just have to present it well and hope the right decision's made.
And moving on to rugby, you'll never have guessed it, but there's a game tomorrow afternoon. England's rugby players will have their final workout today as they prepare for their much-hyped meeting with Wales tomorrow. The Six Nations game at Twickenham is a repeat of the World Cup quarter-final and has added spice following England's loss to Ireland. But Will Greenwood says they'll have to be at their best to win tomorrow.
Wales themselves had such a fantastic start to Six Nations and now not quite gone on so well, but they played very well against the French. The Irish closed them down at Lansdowne Road, gave them no space. We know what they can do.
And the under-21s, they're in action tonight. Their coach, Chris Davey, calls on one of the most famous names in rugby to help his Six Nations campaign. Gavin Quinnell, younger brother of Scott and Craig, has been drafted in to add some bulk at number 8. But the younger sibling is by far the heaviest, weighing in at 20 stones. That's the sport. Back to you, Lucy and Andy.
Thanks very much, Carly. Now, it's just gone 10 to 9. You're listening to CJS Breakfast.
Now, we thought we'd add a little humour into the lead-up to the big Six Nations match on Saturday. Swansea comedian Paul Allen's latest song offers a light-hearted dig at our English rivals. I spoke to Paul earlier, but first here's a little taster of his anthem, Stick the World Cup Where the Sun Don't Shine.
Designer shirts with a big red rose, a bloke called Lawrence who gets up my nose. I'd shut them all up if I could. I really wish Clive would.
So welcome, Paul Allen. What kind of reaction do you get to songs like this?
Somebody accused me the other day of it being sour grapes. And I said, yes, it is 110. Let's face it, if anybody deserved to win the World Cup with a forward pass, it was Wales. We've had enough practice at it. We've worked hard at it. It's not fair that the English go and win it with a forward pass. And if we'd have won the World Cup, we'd have had 3 minutes after Crime Watch and 10 seconds after the CBBBs or whatever it is. You know, I just think the way I see it is that, yes, they won it. We don't need to hear about it forever because we didn't win it, and I'm really upset about that, basically. So that's basically it, really.
You can't stick the World Cup where the sun don't shine. Wait until the Welsh boys run down the line. Take your OBs and your forward pass. Take your flipping chariots and park them on the grass.
But surely you must get a bit of stick from the English fans.
I will be honest here and say most of the English fans who listen to it take it on the chin and have a laugh. Do you know what I mean? Because it is no real malice. It's all a bit of fun. It does say comedian on the top of the poster at the end of the day. And it's... But what shocked us really is the fact that the Irish and the Scots and even the French have picked up on it as well. I can't ever see me doing a translation into French, to be honest, but I'll have a go. But they all seem to... I think it's a genuine thing where the Welsh have got this wonderful ability to laugh at ourselves. We all know that we're not happy with England winning the World Cup. It's not racist, it's anti-gloating, it's not anti-English. The point of the song is that I'm just fed up of hearing about it all the time. You know, I'm expecting Lawrence Delalio to pop up on my toaster any minute. I've had enough. So, you know, that's basically where it all comes from.
Well, that's quite a thought, having Lawrence Delalio popping out your toaster. But any thoughts of playing rugby yourself, Paul?
I like watching it. I wouldn't play it because I tend to suffer from paranoia, and every time they go down in the scrum, I think they're talking about me. So I don't like being on the pitch with them. I have been capped 6 times. Well, my teeth have been capped for Wales, but apart from that, no interest in playing the game. But obviously, love watching it, and love watching it when we win. So You know, I don't get a lot of enjoyment, but I do love watching it.
Well, thank you very much for that, Paul, and let's hope you make it to number one with your Stick the World Cup Where the Sun Don't Shine. Thank you very much. You're listening to CJS Breakfast. The time is coming up to 5 to 9. Now let's turn our attentions to world affairs with an ambitious attempt to go round the world in 80 seconds.
The global week was dominated by terror, violence and the political aftermath of the Madrid bombings. Last weekend, Spain's Socialist Party won a shock election victory after voters appeared to turn on the government over its handling of the Madrid massacre. The country's new Prime Minister, José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, said his first priority was to fight terrorism. By Monday, he had stirred up a transatlantic hornet's nest by threatening to pull Spanish troops out of Iraq if nothing has changed there by June the 30th. Blair and Bush suddenly look isolated and terror looms large on the world agenda once more. As if to confirm this, on Wednesday a blast ripped through the Mount Lebanon hotel in Baghdad. The strike killed almost 30 people and once again carried all the hallmarks of Al-Qaeda. On the same day, 6 people were killed in clashes between Kosovan Serbs and Albanians in the northern town of Mitrovica. Several fatal clashes have followed in the worst ethnic violence seen in Kosovo since the 1999 war. Yesterday, NATO responded by sending in reinforcements. About 1,000 new troops are being sent to support the 18,000 K4 peacekeepers already there, but the UN are pulling troops out. Meanwhile, in world sport, this week saw the Indian cricket team tour Pakistan for the first time since 1989. It is hoped that the tour will cement the peace process which the two subcontinent countries have just embarked on.
Thank you for that, Andy. So back to today, the largest poetry reading in the world is being attempted today. Later this morning, 200,000 school children from across Britain will unite for a mass reading of William Wordsworth's timeless poem Daffodils. One school involved is Lancashire High School in Cardiff. It's hoped their dulcet tones will make the Guinness Book of Records and raise money for Marie Curie, the cancer charity. Rebecca Bryce has been at rehearsals talking to the children.
I'm here at Cardiff High School in Cardiff with some Year 8 pupils who have been rehearsing hard for their reading of Wordsworth Daffodils. In fact, you can probably hear them rehearsing behind me.
Golden daffodils beside the lake beneath.
So, what's going to be happening then today? Why are you reading this poem?
We're trying to break a world record for the most people reading a poem at once.
So are there going to be schools all around the UK reading the poem at the same time?
Yeah, about 250,000.
Do you know why they selected this poem in particular?
No, I guess it's because we're coming. Oh yeah, it's about Marie Curie and they sponsored daffodils and stuff.
Ah, this is why you're wearing those lovely yellow t-shirts, I'm guessing then. What do the big faces represent?
Reading. It's called Wordsworth Reading.
So do you think that by doing this poetry reading that you're going to try and encourage people to not only read more poetry but also support Marie Curie at the same time?
Yeah, probably.
I know you're probably sick of it by now, but what's your opinion of the poem?
I think it's boring because it's only about daffodils and just nothing else. Like, if you get to spring, it's like all flowers, but not just daffodils everywhere.
Have you looked at this in your classes then to discuss what the poem means?
Yeah, in Reds we've been practicing it and going through it.
Well, you must be very excited if you manage to get it into the Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah, well, if we'll again, I'll definitely buy a copy.
Well, I'm now joined by Mrs. Vaughan here at Cardiff High School, who's head of Year 8. So, can you tell me, what's this all about then?
We're joining in a Guinness Book of Records attempt. It's for, I think, 200,000 pupils across the UK will be reading Wordsworth's poem Daffodils aloud. I think the last record was about 3,000, so we hope to crack it.
So how would you know, though, if it's been cracked or not?
I imagine that we'll be told by Marie Curie, the people that are organising it.
And have the children been enjoying rehearsing for it and taking part in it, do you think?
Yes, they've been practising hard, and in particular this morning they're very excited.
Do you think, though, that having this poetry reading will help greater understanding of poetry and get them more excited about it?
I think so, yes. Actually, everybody's talking about Wordsworth's daffodils, which they certainly wouldn't have been talking about before.
Well, I'll better let you get on with your rehearsal, but best of luck, fingers crossed. Let's hope you make those Guinness Book of Records. This is Rebecca Bryce for CJS Breakfast.
You're listening to CJS Breakfast. It's approaching 9 o'clock.
Well, it's been a packed old show. We've had music, we've had car washes, and obviously we've been concentrating on the rugby. It's the big one for Wales this weekend. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, there aren't many better feelings than beating the English. So what's so special about beating them? We don't seem to mind losing to the Irish, but we just can't stand the English getting one up on us. Is it because they're arrogant, or now because they're world champions? Well, it seems, talking to the people of Cardiff, it's a historical thing.
I don't think it's just the Welsh who get passionate about beating the English. I think it's everyone in general. It's just because, we're all Celts at the end of the day, and we want to get one over on the English, seeing as they're quite obnoxious most of the time.
They invaded Wales, and I think it just goes back hundreds of years, and there's that rivalry, and it's the minnows against the big boys. So
I don't know, it's just been going on for ages. It's just something that you're taught now, that you're not supposed to like people in England.
Oh, I think... have you got time for 1066 and all that? I think it's something genetic.
So that's the views of the people. And we've also had Phil Bennett on the line, who was pretty positive about Wales's chances. Now, you've already told me, Lucy, you're not interested in the rugby, so I doubt you're going to the match.
I won't be going to the match because I can't afford it, but I'll certainly be watching it. And considering my luck from yesterday's betting on the Cheltenham Gold Cup, I'll be having a sneaky bet as well.
Lady Luck might shine on Lucy again, but that's just about it from CJS Breakfast for today.
We hope you've enjoyed the show, and I hope you'll join us again next week. From everyone here, have a lovely day.
Yeah, we hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next Friday morning with CJS Breakfast. Here's the news at 9 o'clock with Ruth Woodward.
Good morning. European Union Justice and Home Affairs ministers are meeting in Brussels today to discuss how to coordinate anti-terrorist resources in the wake of the Madrid bombings. They'll be looking at ways of sharing intelligence. In Spain, a judge is due to decide today whether 5 people arrested in connection with the Madrid bombing should be charged, released or held for further questioning. The men were detained last Saturday. Under Spanish anti-terrorist laws, the authorities have 5 days to press charges. Pakistani troops have been involved in fierce fighting with Islamic militant groups in a mountainous area on the border with Afghanistan. It's believed they've surrounded the deputy leader of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. Several helicopter gunships were in action this morning, firing rockets on at least one village where Al-Qaeda suspects are believed to be operating from. Reinforcements for the NATO-led peacekeeping force have begun arriving in Kosovo, where ethnic violence has claimed more than 30 lives. British is sending around 750 troops. The United Nations Security Council has condemned the killings. Consultant to the UN in Kosovo, Mike Ungersma, says the situation is serious.
In the end, Serbia and Kosovo will have to have a peaceful, friendly divorce. They will not be able to coexist under the same sovereignty.
A man who indecently assaulted a schoolgirl at a swimming baths in North Wales has been banned from every sports and leisure centre in Britain. This unusual order was made because Christopher John Paddy told Mould Crown Court that he assaulted the girl on 4 occasions in a Wrexham swimming pool. The 46-year-old was also jailed for 12 months and told to register as a sex offender for 10 years. The number of patients with cancer has risen by nearly 1/3 over the past 30 years. Death rates have fallen, but the National Audit Office found evidence of inequalities. Patients have more chance of surviving if they're rich or if they live in the south of England. Poorer people have to wait longer for diagnosis. Spokesman James Robinson says there's lots of work still to be done.
More people are living longer, but that's not to say that we can't get improvements. The delays for getting diagnosis and then therapy are longer than they should be in order to get the best outcomes.
Hereditary peers in the House of Lords are here to stay. The Lord Chancellor, Lord Falconer, has announced the bill proposing the removal of the peers is being dropped because of so much opposition. Despite this, he said that the issue would return in Labour's general election manifesto.